Om Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Param Param Ishvaro Guratmeti Murti Veda Vibhagine Vyomabda Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Sava Vedanta Sedanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanandam Satguru Pranatoshmaham. Om Shanti, Shanti Shanti Om Namaste. Welcome to our Drsya. We begin today from page 44, and the verse that Swamiji doing a summary of what we have seen already. But I took a quick look, and there are some passages here that are worth revising. In this verse, beginning from the 13th verse to the 21st, which is the one we'll unfold today, the authors talk about the cause for samsara and the remedy for samsara. He pointed out that samsara is due to ignorance caused by avarana shakti, or more precisely, the aviveka caused by avarana shakti. There is an ignorance, and then it somehow compromises our faculty of discrimination. And then technically we say that ignorance is lack of discrimination, intellectual discrimination, discernment. And it is blamed on avarana shakti. By aviveka is meant the lack of discrimination between satya and mithya. And on a preliminary stage is a lack of discrimination between dharma and adharma, as I often like to put. We begin understanding the law, understanding its laws and rules, the structure of the universe, and then we begin conforming to its laws, discriminating, and how to behave, how to interact, how to transact and move around in this apparent order, in a way that we can develop a sattvic mind. So that's the goal of this exercise on discrimination between what is dharma and what is adharma. Ultimately, the Viveka is going to make it impossible. Furthermore, the discrimination between satya and mithya, not because it is more difficult, but it's much more subtle. It's almost easier than discriminated dharma from a dharma, since dharma and dharma, they can be very complex by nature. But discriminate satya of mithya is the simplest possible thing. The seer from the thing, the subject from the object. So it's very simple. From Drsya. But due to the subtlety of satya and how to isolate, to extract satya from mithya, although mithya is sustained by satya, it does not stand without satya. It becomes very subtle, and people tend to have a hard time to understand one's very nature as satya. So this discrimination takes place at both the subjective level and objective level. So we are talking about the discrimination on its final stage to see reality within the apparent reality. So subjectively, we need to understand that the mind itself is unreal, but consciousness illumining the mind is the only reality. That is a discrimination that has to be done subjectively in one's very intellect. So we need to do this discrimination till it's clear. And it's subtle, but it's simple, but it's not necessarily easy. So we do it subjectively, and on the objective level is the same thing, because we see the world and we somehow have the opportunity, interacting and seeing the world, to see the beauty, the fullness, to see Satchitananda of Brahman appearing as the universe. So in both levels, we can see Brahman as the very nature of the intellect, or Brahman as the very nature of the universe, of the world. So it appears to be, Drsya Aviveka is the first indiscrimination that's caused by Avarana Shakti. There is such a mixture at the objective level also, which is the Brahman world mixture. So there is a confusion, there is a mixture between reflect consciousness and the original consciousness, Jiva Atma and Paramatma, the intellect and consciousness that illumines the intellect. So because they are mixtured, they cause a little bit of trouble for the Jiva Atma, because as we said, it cannot be separated literally. It has to be understood intellectually. And on the objective level, it's the same thing. We cannot separate Brahman from the world, but we have to come to understand that Brahman is substratum of the world, and it's the only reality. The difference between these two is also known as Brahman world of Viveka, is the second indiscrimination called for the same Avarana Shakti. Now the author has entered in the second Avarana, the second Aviveka. In the 20th verse, he pointed out that we experience the world outside. It is not the pure world that is experienced, but it is a world mixed with Brahman. So this is amazing. We keep this vision, this perspective that we experience in Satchitananda as we experience the world. And knowing that the world is going to be always a challenge for the substantial nature of the Jiva Atma, but it has no impact into the true nature, of Jiva Atma. So you see, I consciousness, I have no problem with the substantial nature of the world, and furthermore, I see the world as Brahman, in Brahman as Brahman. So this is a very nice statement here. We see the world, we experience the world, and we know that we experience consciousness, existence of nature, of limitless nature. In the example described earlier, the hand is never seen by itself, but it can only be seen, when it gets mixed up with light. Otherwise, the hand can be seen even in darkness. Otherwise, the hand can be seen even in darkness. Is that right? In the example described earlier, the hand is never seen by itself, but it's always seen mixed up with the light. Otherwise, the hand can be seen. Otherwise, it would be seen even in darkness, of course. Now I got the point. So we don't see, in the darkness, we don't see the Namarupas. So we need light. And then when the light comes, we see the Namarupas, the objects. But what happens, because of the nature of light, it's subtle, it's unchanging, it does not move. It has similar features to consciousness, to Brahman. So that's why we use space and light so often as an analogy to explain the nature of Brahman. So the light is not going to move. It's not going to say, hi, I am here. This is my name. This is my shape, you know, and it's not going to fluctuate because of this uniform and all-pervasive nature of the light. We miss on the light. It's very, very simple. So the hand and the light are experienced together, but the subtle, formless light is missed. The experience of light is present, but the knowledge of the light is absent. Isn't it simple? Consciousness is experienced of all times, but due to avarana, you know, the knowledge I am experience consciousness and the world is absent until it's no longer absent, because we got the knowledge, we contemplate, we examine that piece of information in the light of the teachings, and then we say, of course, there is no experience of objects without light, and consciousness is the ultimate light. It's the ultimate pramana, okay? So light may be that by which we experience the world, but consciousness is the ultimate pramana. The light is continuous, is unitary, and does not change. And it does not change according to the object it illumines. This is a nice analogy about the nature of consciousness, the nature of light. It's going to shine and illumine and reveal whatsoever without any discrimination, meaning to say, oh no, I have my preference. I'm not going to illumine this and that because I don't like it. No, it's uniformly, it just reveals everything. That's the nature of consciousness. It's going to shine and is going to allow us to illumine our environment and experience everything. Of course, the Jiva Atma is going to resist and say, no, this and this and this and that, I don't want to experience. Therefore, I'm going to put a blockage that every time that comes, I shut my mind and then I don't see what is going on, for example. Where am I? The experience of light is present, but the knowledge is absent. The teachings of Vedantas is only to shift our attention to the invisible light of conscious existence, you know? And it is the most simple thing, Claudio. I have been telling you from the day number one.
I struggled so much in the last week to explain this topic to some people. And I realized that I understand it, but I cannot yet explain it good. So it's so simple, but it's so hard to explain to another, you know.
The more
people struggle so much.
The more you study scriptures, the more you dwell on these teachings, the more you're going to assimilate them, and you're going to be more able to pass it on, you understand? To unfold them to other people, because it's simple, but it has to be understood, fully understood by you, so that it's no longer an academic knowledge, but it is an internalized knowledge.
Yeah. I really realized that, I have to study Vedanta for longer time, much more.
And digest it.
Yeah, digest it, do all the process really it needed. Okay, so it's not only, wow.
It's only there to help us to, where am I? Where was the last phrase?
It was in the last page, on the 42, that the teaching is only drawn one's attention to the already experienced fact. It's just the last line, I think. And then the
Okay.
light is
Oh yeah,
continuous.
the teaching is only to
and-
draw attention. The light is continuous. The light is all pervasive or permeating. It's a continuous. It does not change, and it's going to reveal anything. To teach, the Brahman is always present in all our experience in contacting the outside world. The author writes this important verse, the verse 20 still. In all our experience, 5 factors are involved. You remember the teachings of last week. One is Asti. The Swami Ji translated as isness. So it's basically Sat Chit Ananda Namarupa, as we have seen last week. So to explain which way we experience the world, because we say, no, I experience Namarupa, name and form. And then he said, no, you experience existence, consciousness, and Ananta. So Ananta is a little bit more challenging because first, we experience a lot of objects that are inert and they don't shine with bliss, let's say. They may produce some bliss here and there, not twice, depending on our vasanas, but they themselves are inert. But the scriptures say that everything is also of limitless nature. Ananta is always there with Chit and Sat. There is nothing in this universe in which these 3 features of Brahman is not present. Of course, the objects, these configurations, they are going to be there showing up. They're Sat. All sentient and all inert objects, they present themselves as I exist. Therefore, I am here with, described by you, Jivatmas, human Jivatas, name, forms, and attributes. But the inert objects do not really show up to say, and I am also Chit. I have knowingness. I can know, and I can sense, and I can respond. So the vegetal rain world, it's sensible. It has a mind, but it has a lot of limitations. It does not really move, and the mind is subconscious. And then we have the animal rain that they have a more sophisticated mind, but not to the extent of discriminating among their vasanas, their free will, their choice. They don't come to that level. Or maybe some animals may have that, and we don't know. Some people claim that the dolphins, for example, they're highly intelligent, and who knows? We have no means to understand how certain creatures experience the world. We observe them, but But anyhow, Satchitananda is in everything, even in the inert objects. And then why the inert objects are not really having ananda, bliss, happiness, ecstasy, and why they are not having thoughts and feelings and emotions, the totally inert object, because of the proportions, of the 3 gunas which make up those objects. If there is not enough sattva involved, and then the subtle body, a reflecting medium does not come into play. And we need a reflecting medium so that not only Sat shines, but Chit shines, okay? And then all animals, they are there, and they have the other creature, they have Sat, they have Chits, because they respond to the environment, but you don't see them expressing ananda or bliss. So one of the funny things to see is 2 dogs making love. You can see in their expression. It's something maybe strange in the American society, but I was brought up in a third world country. And when I was a boy, 5, 10, 12 years old, it was common to see this on the street. And the dogs, and they have no expression of pleasure in their face. And on all other animals, it seems that they do that without any sense, feeling, emotion of bliss or happiness or satisfaction. So this ananda, this bliss, this satisfaction appears reflecting the human mind and the human intellect only, as it seems. Huh? We never know. As we know, Sat and Chit are present in every object. Chit is present as knowledge, Sat as existence. If someone in the audience is asked what or who is there on the stage, and then he goes back to talk about the light, and then Vidyaranya describes this fact of these 5 aspects, okay? Sat, Chit, Ananda, Namarupa. It describes this fact in the 10th chapter of Panchadas. He asks us to consider the situation after play is over. So you go to a play, there is a stage, the actors are there, and then they all retire. They went back behind the curtains, you know, and then the stage is empty. And then if someone in the audience is asked, who is there on the stage or what is there on the stage? The person would always say, no one or nothing is on the stage. So it's another example that explains a lot. And this is a little bit more elaborate with the stage and the actors and the audience looking at the stage and see, oh, there's nothing there. So what did they miss out when they say there is nothing there? We know, no? You know, Claudio? I ask you because I know that not all of you understand my English.
No, I understand your English, but I don't find, I try to read here and I lost what you say. So because I lost the line, I started to searching the line here, and
it's the same analogy as before, but a little bit more elaborate. So when we look at the stage, we see, and then we say, what is in there now? Nothing. So all furniture, everything, all decorations or background, there's nothing. So when we say that, of course, we discount the light, because if it was no light, we couldn't say there is nothing on the stage. If everything was dark, we could not say that the absence of objects are there. So the whole thing, it's nice. I have a highlight this passage because when we talk about those mental states in which there is no object of experience, and then we say there was nothing there in deep sleep or in Nirvikalpa Samadhi, we cannot discount the consciousness that have established, the Chit aspect of consciousness that have established that there was no duality, there was no object of experience, okay? Because without that, we cannot assert that there was nothing on the stage, there was nothing in deep sleep. It's an important analogy. So people would say invariably that there is nothing. That statement shows that the light, because of which we could see that there is nothing on the stage, was missed, or was missed. Missed is the best thing, consciousness is missed out again and again. Even though the light plays such an important role, we don't notice it. Why? Because it is subtle, changeless, formless, uniform, and present everywhere with no limits, in its. So these features of light, which are similar to the features of consciousness, makes it somehow easy for us to miss it. The same way space that is everywhere is not noticed by us. Statements like empty space is a contradiction. So when we say, oh, what do you experience? Empty space, okay? Empty space. So it's a huge contradiction because space itself is already present. It cannot be emptied out, okay? So what is in the empty space? Is space. How are you going to empty space? Because it is the container of all objects in the universe. How are you going to empty the space? Empty space is a contradiction because space is there, and we cannot eliminate space, right? So empty space is a contradiction because space is always present. Whatever is uniform, whatever is all pervasive, it's somehow it permeates everything and spreads and makes room and accommodates everything, such as light and space. And consciousness, of course, is taken for granted. And we say, oh, of course, now that you tell me, I got it. But guess what? The person say, although I got it, I will forget it again and again, and I will miss on that again and again. Because, what's the big deal about realizing that light is always present, that space is always present, and gravity is always pulling us down, and so on. So there is no practical benefit. It's just an exercise for us to understand that we discount something that makes our life very miserable, discounting the presence of my limitless nature as the light of consciousness makes our lives miserable. Therefore, we need to understand these analogies and apply it for conscious existence and not to miss it anymore, right? People do not note Brahma Rupam, which is the truth, but fall in love with the variety of Namarupas, which is not truth. And truth is attractive, and truth is not attractive. Thus, Maya wins. Nice, huh? Maya is much more powerful than Brahman, it seems, because it can deceive the mind of everyone. In the Gita, there is a passage that Lord Krishna says, by the power of my Maya, I'm going to deceive all intelligent living creatures. No? One should enjoy, and then this is nice, and say, Maya always wins. No? I mean, we're talking about what? The Anyanis, the Samsaris, the large majority, 99.99999% of living creatures. And then it says, so one should enjoy Maya. Don't try to destroy Maya, but holding on to Brahman, holding on to reality, and then you can discriminate. This is real, this is not real. Wow, but how fascinating Maya and its real projection is. You enjoy the movie, knowing that the movie is just a superimposition on the screen of consciousness. Anything from you guys?
Yeah, by holding on to Brahman and enjoying Maya, you can truly enjoy Maya because you're not affected by it, so to speak. So only then can you truly enjoy it without the ups and down consequences.
Yeah. And how so? Why so?
Because you're not affected by it, because you know it's not your ultimate reality. You are the ultimate reality. So all these things, they come and they go and they're temporary, but it doesn't affect you. It doesn't touch you.
Yeah, and you do that from the basis of a well internalized knowledge that neutralizes the vasanas that unconsciously is projecting reality to Namarupas. So to the extent that we internalize this knowledge, and then we say, okay, so the names and forms are there, but I don't have desire for them. How so? Because I got the knowledge of my full, whole, purna nature. Therefore, this ignorance, these vasanas do not compel me anymore to be deceived by Maya, because Maya is going to keep projecting the object. So very well said.
I was thinking also, Arlindo, that once the knowledge manifests as recognition, in day-to-day life. There's a beautiful benefit of a softness to experience. It just gets a little bit, I don't know if that's the distance that is pointing out, but that softness, they were saying there's really no benefit, but I think there is.
Who says that there is no benefit?
Didn't we see that in a paragraph above? I can't remember exactly where we were talking about it, that when it's missed, when it's acknowledged, when there's the recognition of it, there's benefit flows, I think.
Yeah, but you understood certain passage here saying that there is no benefit in self-recognition.
Yeah.
You understood it?
I'll find it somewhere.
Okay.
Come
Anyhow,
back to it.
if in any passage it said that there is no benefit in self-recognition or self-knowledge, it means there is no worldly, practical gains, mundane gains. There is no benefits because you cannot really change the way the world is. So you're gonna still have to pay your bills and having troubles and problems. Everyone has their own problems, okay? But and nobody's going to please you or to validate you or to adore you because you are a self-realized person. Or nobody's going to even notice. They are going to find you weird. So in this world, there is not really anything that changed from the objective point of view of the Yanni, but subjectively, everything has changed because he sees it from the eyes or from the vision, from the knowledge of the Vedas and Vedanta. And then it is exactly what you say, what Mark said, what we have been saying. The benefit is huge, but it does not change the objective world, but change the way we interact with it. And this is the main thing. But people believe that, no, if I am enlightened, and then I'm going to live in another transcendental reality in which there will be no problem, no Jesus. Those are fantasies. Yeah? Right? But anyhow, if you find that passage, we can see the context in which that was stated. There is another nice last paragraph here that I want to view with you. A question may come up as to how Ananda can be uniform, because Ananda is experienced to be changing, okay? So we know that everything Satchitananda, and that includes the Jiva-Atma, is of the nature of Satchitananda, and the human Jiva-Atma, the Jiva-Atma, the human Jiva, it experiences pleasures, experience satisfaction, experience peace, experience love, experience fullness here and there. This is experiential Ananda. And why, if Satchitananda is uniform, why we experience it as a changing phenomenon? Why this Ananda is not experienced, not even by the Yanni, as a uniform, unchanging phenomenon, Ananda, like many people believe. You understand? Why it does not do that? Because this Ananda manifests in the mind. In the mind is a constant flux of mental condition changing. The condition of the mind, our mental condition, keeps changing according to the interaction and the three gunas, and everything is just there, being hit by the world and offering a response to every situation, and then the mind is changing. It's not uniform. Once it becomes reflected consciousness, okay? Consciousness, Satchitananda, and everything is, our nature as in Brahman, as original consciousness is unchanged. Our nature as reflected consciousness change. That's why the Ananda we experience is not uniform, but it is conditioned by what? By my mental state. It's not the condition by getting what I want. No, it's conditioned by my mental state. Okay, I know I cannot get anything from the world, but yet, you know, as a Jiva Atma, even as a Yana, still I am subject to some irritations or some little things that come and go. You know, as we know, the Yoni recovers quickly. And then, but the mind is changed, and then the Ananda is not uniform, it's not continuous. It's not what a lot of people believe. Experiential bliss is not Brahmananda, but it is the Ananda that is reflecting the mind. So why we say that it's so important to hold, to maintain a sattvic mind, because life becomes more pleasurable. Because not only you're going to experience the Ananda aspect of Brahman that is going to feel like satisfaction and peace, but you're going to experience the Chit aspect of Brahman, which is a more clear view of this apparent order. The knowledge is better, the clarity of mind is better, and the experience of peace and satisfaction is more present. Okay, so this Satchitananda, no, it's we can see that Sat is somehow uniform. We cannot say, oh, now this morning I was existing more, now I feel I'm existing less. No, I am all the time. And we all are all the time. Everything is, the isness of everything we can tell, it's uniform. The Chit, it is changing. Sometimes my knowing capability is good. I'm sharp, I'm clear. Yeah? And sometimes I'm, you know, Tamasik, as we often say, I'm just confused. Huh? And how about the Ananda? The Ananda is even a little bit stranger, you know, because it depends on my Chit, my level of Chit. Chit has to be there as Sattva Guna, and then there will be a nice feeling and a nice reflection of peace and satisfaction. Huh? The mind has fluctuations. And then we believe that Ananda has fluctuations. It's again superimposition of Mithya and Satya. Huh? So it is the mind that is fluctuating. It's the mental state, it's the proportions of the gunas in my mind of change and fluctuating. And then I say, oh, my Ananda is fluctuating. It means that Ananda fluctuates. Now, Ananda, which is limitlessness, is always there as limitlessness, but the mind is going to fluctuate to the extent that it may feel, you know, unpleasurable moments in which the notion of peace and satisfaction is temporarily challenged, you know. Since the mind fluctuation, the Ananda seems to it, the original Atmananda in every living being is the same, continuous, you know, unchanging. Yeah, uniform, the original Atmananda. But when the original Atmananda shines in the subtle body, it varies according to the conditions of the three gunas. The other two, Rupa, Nama, belong to the unstable, changing Mithya world and are unreliable. So the other two, we cannot do anything about, okay? The world is Nama Rupa, they belong to Maya Ishvara. It's a changing thing, and they are not reliable, and we have no control over that. We have a certain control on what? On our mental state. We can develop more Sattva Guna by different means. The first one is racing, the rat racing to become successful, and then I experience a little bit more of Ananda. And I will have a little bit more of a clear mind, and so on. But I can get self-knowledge, and then my mind is going to be enjoying a dominance of Sattva Guna, which is going to express itself as more clarity and more peace, satisfaction, bliss. So we have a certain control. We have no control over Sat. but because we exist uniformly at all time, but Chit and Sat and Ananda, we can work a little bit on that. But our goal is not to establish a sattvic mind so that we remain like walking around with that blissful smile at all times. No, our goal is to develop some dominance of sattva guna so that we can get this self-knowledge. And then the balance of the three gunas, they find themselves a certain equilibrium naturally once this knowledge is firm. You don't need to go back and say, oh my God, too much rush. Let me meditate here. Let me do this. No, the knowledge is there. It's properly internalized and digested, and then it's there offsetting rajas and tamas when they come in improper proportions, you know, and then again and again it keeps creating a balanced mind, you know, influenced by sattva guna, which gives us more clarity and more peace and satisfaction. That's why we should not rely on the world for what everybody wants, which is Ananda. We should rely on purifying, yeah? Evolving, elevating, purifying, so that we can be an enjoyer rather than a sufferer in spite of the ups and downs of the Jagata, conditions of the world. So the verse 21. Is Claude with us? Yeah. Existence, consciousness, bliss is the same in space. Is the same in space, air, fire, water, and earth. And it is the same in all deities, in all animals, in all human beings, and so on. Only their names and forms differ. So it's basically the same concept, but as we know, Swami Paramarthananda, he managed to squeeze some very nice stories out of certain verse that seems to be repetitive, no? So existence, consciousness, and bliss is the same, and it pervades all five elements, you know? From the five elements, the configurations of all objects come into existence, which includes the godly entities, the animal realm, and then the vegetal, the mineral, and the human, the man and woman. So the names of these configurations are going to differ, but the Satchitananda is the same in all of these. And then Swamiji is in the vision of Sankhya, every jiva is a mixture of Atma, called Purusha, and Anatma, called Prakriti. So every jiva is a mixture of the spirit, of the nature of Brahman, and matter, which begins with Maya, the original Prakriti. However, Shankya holds that this self, this Atma, is different from body to body. Shankya holds that this Atma is different from body to body, but all pervade, is not. Can you help me on that passage?
I think he's saying that that Sankhya says that Atma is all pervading, but somehow the reflective medium, he's assuming that changes the Atma.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
that could be so in the vision of Shankya, every jiva is a mixture of Atma and Anatma, spirit and energy, consciousness and matter. In the case of the jiva Atma, it's a mixture of consciousness, matter, and reflected consciousness, which is a very nice teaching that appears in the Panchadas towards the end. The Jiva Atma is a mixture of consciousness, matter, and reflected consciousness. But however, he says that it's a mixture of Atma and Anatma. However, Shankya holds that this Atma is different from body to body, although all-pervading. The author points out that Atma is one and all-pervading, otherwise known as Brahman. The consciousness in one body is the very same consciousness as another body. The existence in every person is one existence. The consciousness is the same in every person. Another is the same. There are no three all-pervading attributes of Brahman. There is only Chit. There is no Chit separate from Sat or separate from Ananda, because they are the very nature of Brahman. So sometimes we say the features of Brahman, existence, consciousness, and limitlessness. Sometimes we say the nature and the attributes of Brahman is the word that I try to avoid, not to make confusion, because Brahman is attributeless, but the very nature. So they are not attributes. We can say feature, but it is the nature of Brahman, and the nature is the nature. It somehow is a nature expressed by three notions, three concepts, but it's only one thing. I think there is a mistake there in the beginning. However, Shankya holds that this Atma is not different from body to body, but it is all-pervading. Don't you think so, or not?
Linda, I think it's not saying Shankya. What it's saying is Samkhya, and this is a different philosophy to Advaita Vedanta. This believes in the reality of matter and consciousness, so to speak. It believes they're both real. Yeah. So he's saying in the vision of Sankhya, every jiva is a mixture. But then I think what's going to happen is Paramahansa is going to go on and
So in the vision of Sankhya, every jiva is a mixture of Atma and Anatma, and we see it on many of our Vedantic texts, that we appear to be a mixture of spirit and matter. Of course, the matter is there to hold our substantial nature, and the spirit, it is our conscious nature. So in the Vedantic scriptures, we also have that statement. So Sankhya is saying that. However, Sankhya holds that this Atma is different from body to body. It should be correct, because they would have revised this book, but it's all pervading, but it expresses itself differently from body to body. Most probably that's what it says, because of, as you were saying, Mark, maybe there is a confusion there between the Brahman Chit, the conscious aspect of original Brahman, and the conscious aspect of the reflect consciousness as the Jiva Atma. Most probably, it's that's the usual confusion. The author points out that Atma is one and all-pervading, otherwise known as Brahman. Atma is one, but it appears to differ from body to body, although it's all-pervading. That's what it seems. The consciousness in one body is the very same consciousness in all bodies. The existence in every person is one existence. The consciousness is the same in every person. Ananda is the same also in every person. There are no three all-pervading features or attributes of Brahman. There is no Chit separate from Sat, and there is no Ananda separate from Sat Chit Ananda. When it's said that the clip is, it indicates that Sat is present in the clip. So it is present in all objects. Here in the verse, it does not refer to inert objects, but it can be inferred. And here it talks about the Chit present in a clip. When we say the clip exists, it indicates that Sat is present in the clip. And also Chit should be present, because as we have established, there is no Sat without Chit. It's all one principle, okay? As we could call it, and Chit, and also Ananda. Ananda cannot be left out because the three aspects are the very nature of the same reality called Brahman. And then it says, but it's not a sentient principle, it's not a sentient object. Chit is not manifest, and we can go further and say Ananda is not manifest in the clip. The suitable manifesting medium called the subtle body is absent in the clip. An example can be given to illustrate this point. Consider an iron piece placed in a fire and a cup of water heated on the fire. Fire penetrates both the iron piece and water. The heat of the fire expresses itself in both the water and the iron piece or iron pot. But the light, no, it's not a pot, but the light of the fire does not express itself in the water. Water does not become bright, but the iron piece becomes red. So you have a fire, and then you have a piece of iron, and then it starts, I think it says it's glowing, right? Glowing. How do you say that?
Glowing, yeah.
With the redness, and then you have also water there. Water is sitting on top of this iron, let's say, and in some, but the color, the fire, the light that comes from that metal radiates, but it's now going to be transferred to the water. The water is going to boil, but it's not going to become illuminated. That light is not going to be transferred to the water. Water does not become bright, but the iron piece becomes red, bright, hot. Similarly, in the clip, only Sat is manifest, but in the mind, in the subtle body, both Sat and Chit are manifest. So we are establishing this distinction, this knowledge, this understanding between Sat, Chit. And this is a nice metaphor to parallel to help us to understand why the subtle body, the Chit aspects of Brahman does not manifest in the clip in the same way the brightness of fire is not manifest in the water, because there is no medium for that. In the iron, there is a medium that allows the fire and the heat transfer. So in the case of the water, the heat transfer, but the light does not transfer because there is no proper medium. You need a metal or something like that can shine with the fire. Consider an iron piece. Okay. Satchitananda is equally present in sentient things as well. So we are talking about the clip again of the world, and also in the sentient beings, as we know. In this verse, the insentient beings are referred to by the 5 elements. Okay, that's nice. I was thinking about that because he was going with the analogy of the clip and the inert objects. By inert objects are being represented by the 5 elements. Okay, the 5 elements, as we know, they are inert. Of course, they are going to get together to produce the sentient jivas, but they get together to produce also the inert objects, such as the clip. So Satchitananda is there. And in this verse, the insentient things are referred to by the 5 elements. And the sentient things are referred to by the 3 grades of sentience: the superior celestial beings, the inferior animals, and the intermediate human beings. Oh, now it makes sense, that beginning of the... I did not have time to read this text today because I was so busy, but now it's somehow it's closing. So we have the 5 elements in there. and then we have the celestial beings, and then we have the human beings and the lower animal beings. Yeah, and then we have the vegetable beings as well, and so on. So the 5 elements, yeah, and the sentient beings are referred to by the grades of superior, celestial, inferior, and intermediate human beings. But the nama rupa make all the things and beings appear different. So due to the shape of each one of these creatures, of these this superior and inferior or medium, yeah, creatures, the Namarupas appear to be different. But Satchitananda is Satchan and Namarupa is Mithya. One should differentiate between Satchan and Mithya and not mix them up. The mixing up becomes evident when I expect permanent support from Namarupa, from people, money, position, sayings, power. Expecting permanence from the impermanent indicates that I have mixed up Satyan and Mithya. How do I know that I have this wrong expectation? The indication is that I get emotionally shattered when the imagined support or gain is not coming, goes, it did not come or left. It is not the fault of the world of Maheshwara. The fault lies in expecting permanence, ananda, from the impermanent object. Therefore, this Satchan Mithya discrimination is required. The Avarana Shakti has to be removed to remove wrong expectations and therefore remove emotional imbalance, and negative feelings and emotions. They create a lot of conflict, bad karma. So it's very nice the way the verse presents itself with the fact that Brahman is present through the 5 elements which are inert energies. So all these clips and plastic bottles and anything that we see around us, it is infused with the ananda, the limitlessness of Brahman, but we don't see them. And then we go into the sentient creatures or beings or principles, and then we have the celestial beings that are superior, they are said to be superior, and then we have the human beings and the inferior animals, and they all appear to be different, and in the beginning it says Shakya holds that although Atma is all pervaded and known as Brahman, but the Atma appears to be different from body to body. The consciousness is one, and every consciousness, in other words, the existence, Okay, it remains a little bit, it's not really all, all the loose ends wrapped up in here, to my understanding. Namarupa make all the things and all beings appear to be different. Okay, we could say that Namarupa makes all Atma appears to be different from person to person, to being to being. Satchitananda is Satyan, and Namarupa is Mithya, again, that distinction. Satchitananda, dearness and the desire for dearness and consciousness and the isness, and then Namarupa. So Namarupa is Mithya, Satchitananda is Satyan. One should differentiate Satyan from Mithya and not mix them up. So what happens when we mix up Satya and Mithya? We know that Satya is the depository, if we could say that way, of peace, love, ananda, bliss, satisfaction. It is in Satya, it is in Brahman, Satchitananda. There we find peace and satisfaction that we work for in all levels. But because we mix up Satya with Mithya, and then we mix up the conscious existence of limitless nature of everything, which the name and form of that thing. We superimpose Namarupa, in Brahman. And then what happens? In that case, we superimpose Ananda in Namarupas. It's because it's a mutual superimposition of Satya and Mithya. We superimpose Ananda in those different configurations. So the mixing up is going to create great problems, because we're going to believe that Namarupa is a source of Ananda, and we forget that the only source of Ananda is in the true nature of our beings, which manifests the world, but we need to understand it subjectively, I would say, first, before we can properly and regularly understand it objectively as well, and therefore not be affected by this magnetic force of attraction and repulsion towards the objects in the world. So we need to understand it internally. So we do this discrimination. We know that Satchitananda is my nature, and it's uniform, it's constant, it's all the time present, beyond time, beyond space, never change, never modify, but my intellect changed. And my mind, emotional mind changed. So I don't mix it up. I do the discrimination, okay? And then I allow the body-mind to go through this flux of change, although with this knowledge, it changes less. And I stayed in Brahman, in Satyan, as Satyan, and I don't mix it up. And much less I'm going to mix up objectively Ananda, projecting Ananda, which belongs to Brahman, to Satyan, in Mithya, which are the objects. You understand? If I do that, and then I'm having double trouble. First, I'm not understanding my changeless free nature as consciousness, conscious existence. And second, I'm projecting Ananda in Mithya. And as we know, we'll never find Ananda in me. Oh, no, there are some people in the Vedanta Brazil that challenge me here and there. No, it's not possible, because I see a lot of people experiencing great bliss and satisfaction and happiness by gaining things, a new relationship and this and that. And then you have to be gentle, not to chase them away. Why they think that we are fanatics? But we can experience a little bit of Ananda in the world, okay? But as we grow, we understand the defects contained in all those objects of experience, beginning with the fact that the moment that I get what I want, immediately there is a fundamental intrinsic defect there, which is what if I lose it? No, what if it goes? And then the desire to hold it is already a secondary level of desire that's going to affect, to negatively affect my experience of peace and satisfaction right there on the spot. There are a lot of defects coming, and not to talk about the other two levels, which is attachment and dependence, which is going to be conducive to samsara. So we leave this to our next class. Consider let me make a mark where we stopped here. We did the whole thing. Yeah, we closed that. Yeah. So we should never expect Ananda in the world. And for that, we need to really understand our nature as a changeless, free, limitless consciousness existence that we are, from our mind which changes, and not projecting Ananda in the objects of experience suggested by my Ishvara to trick us into samsara. Okay. Anything else?
we could look at verse 21 also as a statement of non-duality. In other words, Brahman is all pervasive and everything. Existence, consciousness, bliss is the same in space, air, fire, water, and earth, and in deities, animals, man, and so on. Only the names and forms. So we could just look at that as a statement of non-duality as well.
As well, yeah,
Verse.
as well. Which is the same, that's the only reality, and the nature of reality is non-duality, as we know. It's conscious existence. Oh, no, but how it's not duality, plurality? You're talking about Sat Chit Ananda, existence, conscious, yeah. It's all three names for the same reality, the same principle, so to speak. Claudio, you are not going to be with us on Mondays anymore, huh? Is that correct? For the time being?
Yes, for this month, for August, I will be working, but it could also happen that I am free. So, because I always know at the last time, because at the evening I work. So let's see, but probably most of the time I will not be there, only for August.
Okie dokie. Okay. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, my dear friends, of our G4 today. And we meet again next Monday, Ishvara allowing, willing. Much love. Namaste.
Thank you.
Goodbye. Arrivederci.
Ciao, ciao.
Okay, thanks.
Ciao, ciao.
Bye now.
Bye now.
Bye.